Hi, so today's video is going to be Mazzy Stars Into Dust. It's pretty much, it's a pretty straightforward song. It's really just 3 chords nearly all the way through. A couple of variations that are not that difficult, and a little bit at the end that we'll have a look at the end of the video. So, now whilst we're going through the video, I'll have images on the screen, 3 different types of images. I'll have a chord diagram with coloured dots on it, along with a piece of musical notation that will show you the pattern for picking it by having the same colour dots in the music as we have in the chord diagram, and at the same time we'll have a bit of guitar tab on the other side, really because guitar tab is my preferred way of reading guitar music. Now guitar tab works by having all the strings as lines on the tab, so instead of having the 5 lines of a musical notation, it's the 6 lines of the guitar strings. It might be useful to think of it tab as being like that, because basically the bottom line of your tab is the bottom string and your top line of the tab is the top string, and on each line you might, or on the lines you see numbers, and those numbers are the frets. So if I was to, for instance, play this note here, that's the 5th fret of the D string. So in tab, you would, on the D line, it would have the number 5 there, and that would tell you to play the 5th fret of the D string. And usually you also have the bottom half of musical notes along the bottom to give you an idea of the pattern. So hopefully with all those 3 things available to you look at, and to pause the screen if you need to study them in a bit more detail, you'll get enough information to help you work out how to play the song. So the basis of the song is 3 chords: a D chord, a C chord, and a G chord, but not played as chords, just as 2 notes. So the D chord, you're just holding down these 2 dots of the D chord. So on my guitar, the D chord's yellow, the 2nd fret of the G string, and the 3rd fret of the B string. And for that, I'm going to use my 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and my 3rd finger on the 3rd set of the B string, because if you're playing the chord there, your 2nd finger would go on the high E string, but we're not using that note for this one. And also it gives you this note, this finger can then be moved around easily because you're not using it. Okay, so that's the 1st chord. Then you've got a C chord, or a variation of a C chord, which is just using this note here. So the C chord on my guitar is in pink, and I'm putting my finger on that note there, which is the 3rd fret of the A string, whilst keeping my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. That finger in fact stays here for nearly all the song, till the very last bit at the end. So, and then I'm going to put for the last chord, you're going to take this finger off and put this finger down here, which means that because you've taken this finger off, what you're picking now is the open G string for these chords. Well, I'll show you. So it goes D. The D chord goes D string, B string, G string, B string. So you're picking the bottom note, bottom string that you're using, the top string you're using, and then the middle string that you're using, then the top. So bottom, top, middle, top, bottom, top, middle, top. That's the picking pattern. Now I'm using a plectrum and my index finger pointed down the way so it's not rude. So hitting the bottom and the middle notes with the plectrum, and picking this 3rd fret of the B string with my index finger, like this. See if you can see if I'll move the guitar. That's just my preferred way of doing it. I find that the easiest way to do it, having 1 finger for this string and alternating with the plectrum between these 2. You could pick it like that without the plectrum, and just use your thumb instead of the plectrum. Or if you wanted to pick it with your 3 fingers, you could use your thumb for the D string, your 2nd string would pluck the G string, and your 2nd finger would pluck the B string. So thumb 1st, 2nd, or thumb 1st, index finger. So thumb, index, 1st finger, index, thumb, index, 1st finger, index. I find that's a little bit harder to, and also harder to keep at a steady pace. I find the plectrum and index finger just lends itself to that kind of steady metronomic sort of picking, where you're, if you look at the music notation for the picking pattern, it's quavers, which means it's half-beat notes, and they're continuously that length all the way through the song. So if I was counting that, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4. And because they're half-beats, there are two notes for each beat. Or you can, another way of doing it is to put an and in between those. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. For if you went to a Scottish primary school, tatty. Tatty, 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 tatty. Like that, okay? So you start off in your D shape, but keeping this finger free and available. I'm very conscious that's my rude finger, so I don't want to stick up at you. So bottom string you're picking, I don't mean the bottom string of your guitar. D string, B string, G string, B string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this plectrum, index finger just picking that. And for the second chord, you're going to take this finger off, so you've now got an open G string, and you're putting this second finger onto the 3rd fret of the A string, which on my guitar I've got pink dots for my C chord, so it's that dot there, which is why it's pink on the diagram. So A string, B string, open G string, B string, same pattern, but now you're jumping over the D string, so you don't play the D string, you're going bottom note, bottom string, top string, middle string, top string. And you do that twice through, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, which is on my guitar I've got as a blue dot here, which is part of my E chord, but the blue dot will work for me, so same pattern. Bottom string, top string, middle string, top string, bottom string, top string, middle string, top string. Again, bottom string, the bottom string I'm playing, obviously not the bottom string. And that's the whole song. Now the song starts off in D and plays D for a little while before going into the C and the B bit. But when the singing comes in, I think it's more helpful to think of the pattern as starting with the C bit. Because that's where the singing comes in and then resolves to the D. If you want to think of it that way, the pattern starts with the C note and the open G, followed by the B note and the open G, and then finishes on the D chord. And that's pretty much the entire song. About 2.5 minutes in and 4.5 minutes in, or no, about 2 minutes in and 4.5 minutes in, there's a little variation that is played, which is very similar to the main part, but this time instead of doing the 3rd fret of the A string and the 2nd fret of the A string, you play the 3rd fret of the D string and the 2nd fret of the D string. So it goes. And that's with an open G. So you've got the 3rd fret, so low string, high string, middle string, high string, low string, high string, middle string, high string, and then take that 2nd finger off and swap it for your 1st finger on the 2nd fret, and then back to the D. So exactly the same as it is for the main part, but on a different string. And then I think about 3.5 minutes through, there's a little variation where you start with your C chord, your 3rd fret. You do your 2nd B finger on the A string on the B note, and then you slide that finger down to the 1st fret, which is a B flat, and you play that 4 times. Exactly the same picking pattern: low string, high string, middle string, high string. Now that is quite a stretch. If you find that stretch too painful, you could substitute this finger for your pinky. But the advantage of picking is you're not strumming the chord, so it doesn't matter if this finger is interfering with any of the strings below it, because you're not going to hear that, because you're only picking the A string, the B string, the G string, and the B string. So if you can do it like that, I'd suggest that's probably an easy way to do it, just because it means you can keep this finger in place, and you only do it once. So if you can get through that, but if you really find that difficult, you can swap that finger out to give you that extra distance between your 2 fingers for playing that. And that is pretty much the entire song, apart from the very end, where the frets, the plucking moves up to here and the pattern changes. Now when I first heard this, I thought what the guitar was doing was just coming up here, moving this D-shaped chord up to the 7th fret. So just slide it up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to here. But every time I picked that, I noticed that one of the notes didn't sound right, and I eventually worked out that actually it's this shape that we're picking. Well, first of all, let me go over the pattern. So the pattern goes D string, B string, D string, G string, D string, B string, D string, G string, D string, B string, D string, G string, D string, B string, and then that last note, I'm just playing that and holding it. Now that might not be exactly how it's in the record, but I just think I can't hear this thing. It's not actually a consistent part. It varies a little bit. So if I was playing it, you know, I would just hold that last D for one whole beat, and then you're down to this shape here, which is a D chord on the 5th fret with exactly the same picking pattern. D string, B string, D string, E string, D string, B string, D string, E string, D string, B string, D string, G string, D string, B string, D string. Which sounds kind of complicated. Now, if you're finding that chord there hard to form, because if it had just been sliding up like this, see if it was just this, it would sound like this. Which is absolutely fine, sounds fine to me. But like I say, when I was playing along to it, I noticed that actually it was this note that was being played. Now, a way to get around that is to form your D chord and then use your pinky. So your D, so the D chord is 7th fret of the G string, 8th fret of the B string, 7th fret of the top E string. But this is actually, this is me putting my pinky on the 9th fret of the G string, so it's... Now again, that picking pattern is now different because instead of consistently playing this string, you're consistently playing the open D and varying between the other strings. So it's D, B, D, E. So it's now your finger that's moving and the plectrum, or what, your thumb, is staying on the same note. So you can play it like that. First finger on the 7th fret, 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the B string, 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the G string. Or you can play a D shape, which is just slide that yellow D shape up to here, and then put your pinky on the 9th fret of the G string. But if that's all complicated, just play it as a D chord. And then you slide that down to the 5th fret, and you do exactly the same pattern. Now that's going to take a bit more work than the rest of it, I think. And also the rest of it repeats a lot, so you get a lot of practice at playing that pattern, you know, the D to the C to the B, and even the F note on the D string and the E string when you do that. But this last bit is obviously a little bit more complicated, so I've given you sort of 3 alternatives. Either play the chord shape like that, play a D shape and use your pinky on the 9th fret of the G string, or just play it as a D shape, and okay, it's not exactly accurate, but it still sounds absolutely fine. So just like I say, that is technically the correct chord, or that. That is a harder change to me than putting my pinky on and then just sliding the D and taking my pinky off. But if I was feeling lazy, I'd just play the D chord on the 7th fret and slide the D chord down the 5th fret, and it works pretty much just as well. So that's Mazzy Star's Into Dust. So good luck with that. Like I say, the trick here is to pluck it at the speed you can do it consistent, and then get comfortable with that, and then start speeding up until you're at a speed that's the same as the record. Okay?